The Paint Tool settings in Mudbox can help you bring life to your sculpture by providing almost infinite flexibility to the paint tools. Paint layers further expand the color possibilities of your models. Activate the Paint Tools tray and select the Paintbrush tool. When you do this, the Tool Settings area on the right side of the interface populates with the various settings that are applicable to the current painting tool. Click the color swatch and select a red color from the Color Chooser dialog. Then click Done to close the dialog. Navigate to the bottom of the Tool Settings window by using this slider. Just above the Fall Off section are three buttons: Flood Paint Layer, Flood from Camera, and Reset. Click the Flood from Camera button. A Create New Paint Layer dialog opens, prompting you to create a new paint layer. Name this layer Red and accept the default settings by clicking OK. The visible surfaces of the model have now been covered in the color you choose, and a paint layer titled Red has been created in the scene. This new layer is listed in the Layer area above the Tool Settings window. It is highlighted, indicating that it is the active paint layer. Pan around the model, and you will see that the entire surface did not get painted. Only the surfaces visible at the time the Flood from Camera button was clicked were painted. This can be a useful tool, but if you wanted to paint the entire model without turning it this way and that, use the Flood Paint Layer button instead. Click it now, and the model's entire surface will be painted. In the Layers area, click the New Layer icon. It's the icon just above the eye in the top left of the Layers area. The Create New Paint Layer dialog appears again. Change the name to Blue, and click OK, and a second paint layer is created. The newly created paint layer is active by default when it is created. It should highlight to indicate that it is active. Now, click the color swatch again, and click it to select a blue color. Click the Flood Paint Layer button, and now the model is blue. You may be wondering why the model isn't purple, since you have applied both blue and red paint to it. The answer lies in the Layer area. Note that the paint layers are listed in the order they are created, with the most recent being on top. When a new layer is created, it is placed just above the current active layer in the Paint Layers list. This order represents how the paint would have been applied to a real-world model. If you applied a perfectly opaque layer of red paint, allowed it to dry, then applied a perfectly opaque layer of blue paint, the model would, in fact, be blue. Click and drag on the red layer to move it above the blue layer in the list, and the model immediately changes. You have just told Mudbox that red layer is the top layer of paint. To the right of the paint layer name, you will see a number. This number represents that layer's opacity. By default, it is 100. This setting can be changed in two ways. Click the number, and it may be changed by direct numeric input, or, when a layer is active, a small icon appears to the right of the opacity setting. Clicking this icon activates a slider that can be used to change the opacity setting as well. Use either method to change the opacity setting of the red layer to approximately 50. Note that the opacity setting for layer 1 is still 100. If we were to click and drag it above the red layer, the model appears blue again. Change the opacity of the blue layer to 50. Now we have two layers that interact with each other nicely. These two layers can be manipulated further if you wish. For instance, on the Paint Layers context menu, there are several options. This menu is accessed by clicking the small circular icon at the top left of the Layers area. It contains 23 options, separated into 7 different sections. The first section contains options to create new layers and new layer masks. The options in the next section are used to delete, duplicate, move, freeze, or refresh layers. Below that are the options to merge layers. Layers can be combined and saved to existing layers or combined to form new layers. The next section allows you to solo a selected layer. This is useful when you have several paint layers and only want to look at one of them. The solo options basically tell Mudbox to turn off all the layers except the selected one. Below the solo options is the section containing the import-export options. The import-export options that deal directly with PSD files are next. Lastly is the section with options to create a normal map from a bump map, adjust a layer's color, and clear all color from the selected layer. To the right of the paint layers area, just above the strength column heading, is the Layer Blend Modes dropdown. These settings allow you to change the characteristics of paint layers to achieve different appearances on your model. There are 26 distinct blend modes to choose from. One last point about dragging and dropping layers: paint layers can have subfolders, just like any other standard tree structure files. If you were to drag and drop a layer directly on top of another, it will become a subfolder of that layer. This can make managing layers a great deal easier when your paint schemes become more complex. Take the time to explore layers and how they interact with each other. As you can tell, I wasn't exaggerating when I said the possibilities are almost infinite.